The wind in the Gobi Desert doesn't blow. It attacks. Sustained gusts of 80, 90, sometimes over 100 kilometers per hour. Sand so fine it destroys engine seals and hydraulic lines within hours. Temperatures that swing 40 degrees between noon and midnight. And the nearest city? Hundreds of kilometers away in any direction. This is one of the most hostile construction environments on Earth. No contractor in their right mind would send heavy equipment here. And yet, right now, China is installing hundreds of wind turbines in this desert. Turbines taller than the Statue of Liberty, with blades stretching over 100 meters each. In sand, in wind, in the middle of nowhere. How? That's what nobody outside the industry was prepared to answer. It comes down to one machine. A crane so large it has an elevator inside it. A machine that traveled over 2,000 kilometers just to reach the job site. Something that, until very recently, most engineers would have told you was physically impossible to build as anything mobile. The Zoomlion ZAT40000H, 4,000 tons of lifting capacity, the most powerful all-terrain crane ever constructed. And here's what makes this more than just a record-setting machine. What it's doing in the Gobi is rewriting the economics of wind energy in remote locations, and most of the world's crane industry didn't see it coming until it was already too late. Let's start with the problem, because it's stranger than it sounds. Wind energy has an obvious paradox at its center. The places with the best wind are almost always the places hardest to reach. Coastal areas, mountain ridges, open deserts. The Gobi, stretching across northwest China and into Mongolia, is one of the windiest landmasses on Earth. Consistent, powerful, year-round. An energy resource almost too good to be real. But nobody could get at it properly, not at scale. The early wind farms in the Gobi used smaller turbines that older cranes could handle. But as turbine technology improved, everything started getting bigger. Turbines grew from 6 megawatts to 8 and beyond. Blades stretched past 100 meters. Nacelles weighed more than 150 tons. Towers pushed toward 190 meters in height. The wind wasn't the problem anymore. Installing the equipment was. Suddenly, developers faced a challenge nobody had solved. The turbines they wanted to build were becoming larger than the cranes available to install them. At those dimensions, you don't just need a bigger crane. You need a completely different kind of machine. One that can lift massive loads nearly 200 meters into the air while still being mobile enough to reach remote desert sites. And that's where the industry hit a wall. Here's what most people don't realize about the world's largest cranes. The biggest ones can't move. The machines that traditionally do the heaviest lifting, the crawler cranes, the ring cranes, the massive fixed capacity units, they are assembled on-site piece by piece. They might take weeks to set up. They require flat, prepared ground with precise load-bearing capacity. They need access roads capable of carrying dozens of oversized transport loads just to deliver the components. In some environments, that's fine. A port expansion, an offshore platform, an industrial facility. You prepare the site, you bring in the machine, you do the job. But here's where it gets strange. The Gobi doesn't work that way. You can't prepare the Gobi. The sand shifts. There are no roads between turbine sites. The wind won't wait for 3-week crane assembly. And with hundreds of turbines to install across a project area that might span 50 or 100 kilometers of open desert, you need something that can finish one installation and move itself to the next. Traditional large cranes can't do that. Too heavy, too wide, too dependent on prepared surfaces. You'd spend more time assembling and dismantling than actually lifting. So for years, Chinese wind developers faced a ceiling. They could build in the Gobi, but only with turbines that older, more mobile cranes could handle. And those turbines were increasingly falling behind what the best wind sites deserved. The gap between what the wind could give and what the equipment could install was growing wider every year. And that gap was costing China gigawatts. Zoomlion is not a small company. Based in Changsha in Hunan province, it's one of the largest construction equipment manufacturers in the world. But in the crane industry, European names Liebherr, Tadano, Manitowoc had long set the technical ceiling. German engineering, in particular, was considered the gold standard for extreme capacity mobile cranes. The assumption was that if a 4,000-ton all-terrain crane was possible, someone in Stuttgart or Munich would have built it first. That assumption turned out to be wrong. And the reason it was wrong is more interesting than the machine itself. Zoomlion didn't just build a larger version of what already existed. They rethought the geometry of the problem entirely. The challenge isn't just total lifting capacity. Any large enough machine can eventually lift a heavy load. The challenge is doing it while remaining road legal, mobile, and operational on terrain that isn't a prepared construction pad. The ZAT40000H uses a 10-axle chassis just under 3 meters wide and about 22 meters long. That width matters enormously. At under 3 meters, it can travel on standard Chinese provincial highways without special road closures or escort convoys. A machine of this lifting power, at that transport profile, had never existed before. Wait, let that land for a second. The most powerful mobile crane on Earth is narrow enough to drive down a normal highway, without a police escort. The boom extends to 210 meters in total configuration. That's taller than most skyscrapers in mid-sized cities. It can lift a 10-megawatt nacelle at 160 meters of hub height. That's an object heavier than a commercial aircraft being placed on a target the size of a rooftop, nearly 60 stories off the ground, in open desert, in wind. And it reconfigures from highway transport to operational crane in under 8 hours, one shift. At this point, the scale of what Zoomlion built becomes harder to take in. So here's what it actually looks like. The base of the crane alone sits 6 meters off the ground, roughly a 2-story building. The operator doesn't climb to reach the cab. The cab is accessed by an internal elevator spanning 2 floors. When the stabilizer outriggers deploy, they spread so wide they essentially hide the crane's tires beneath them. Each rear stabilizer unit weighs 20 tons. On its own, heavier than most trucks on the highway, this machine just drove down. When it arrived in the Gobi for its first operation, it came with a convoy of 28 support vehicles. Boom sections, counterweights, hydraulic components, stabilizer pads. The convoy crossed entire provinces, over 2,000 kilometers of highway, before a single lift had been attempted, and then it assembled itself in a day and went to work. The first lift was a 6.25 megawatt turbine installation, generator weighing over 150 tons. Blades over 108 meters long, each transported on special vehicles so extended they needed dozens of meters of wheelbase just to carry a single blade flat. That sounds manageable until you realize what's actually happening at the lift point. Cranes don't install turbine components the way you might picture. The nacelle has to be lifted in a specific orientation and precisely mated to the top of a tower already standing 140 or 160 meters in the air. The blades attach to the rotor hub, assembled either on the ground or at height with tolerances measured in millimeters while desert wind is pushing against the structure. And the machine holding all of it aloft weighs thousands of tons and is standing on sand. The counterweight system reached 260 tons during the Gobi operation. That's the dead weight needed to stop the crane from tipping when it's holding a nacelle at nearly 180 meters. The stabilizer pads below distribute the crane's footprint so the ground pressure stays within what the desert surface can handle. Because if the sand shifts unevenly under a stabilizer, you have a problem that can't be corrected mid-lift. Getting that load distribution right on non-compacted desert terrain wasn't an engineering footnote. It was one of the central challenges of the entire project. It worked. Now here's where the story turns, and where it becomes about something much bigger than one machine. China launched a major desert renewable energy push targeting over 450 gigawatts of new capacity across desert and wilderness regions. That number is worth sitting with. 450 gigawatts, more than the entire installed power capacity of most developed nations. The Gobi, Inner Mongolia, Gansu, Xinjiang, these regions sit at the center of that plan. The turbines going into these sites are the largest land-based machines currently buildable, and the economics only work if you can install them efficiently. Not one turbine every 3 weeks, dozens per quarter, per project, per machine. One ZAT40000H replaces what previously required 3 separate cranes working in coordination. Installation time drops sharply. Personnel on-site drops. And critically, the crane moves between turbine positions without being disassembled. In a wind farm stretching 20 or 30 kilometers across open desert, that mobility isn't a feature. It's what makes the project financially viable at all. There's another layer here that hasn't gotten much attention outside industry circles. When you can efficiently install 8 and 10 megawatt turbines in remote desert locations, the cost per megawatt of generated electricity falls. Not marginally, but significantly. Projects that didn't work financially at smaller turbine sizes suddenly become attractive. Land that was considered too remote, too hostile, too expensive starts looking like an asset, and this is already happening. The turbines going up in the Gobi today are generating power feeding into China's national grid. Electricity eventually reaching cities on the eastern coast, thousands of kilometers away. The desert's wind is being converted to usable electricity at a scale and speed that would have looked unrealistic a decade ago. The global crane industry is watching this carefully, and not entirely comfortably. Liebherr and Tadano both produce extremely capable high-capacity all-terrain cranes. German engineering in this sector is genuinely world-class, but neither company had produced anything close to 4,000 tons of capacity in a roadmobile all-terrain package before the ZAT40000H appeared. There's a reason for that, and it's not lack of engineering ability. European and North American markets developed differently. The demand for extreme capacity mobile cranes was traditionally met by large crawlers, handling offshore wind from barges, or prepared coastal pads. The specific problem of a vast remote desert with no infrastructure and an urgent need for hundreds of giant turbines, that wasn't a European problem to solve. It was a Chinese one, and Zoomlion solved it for a Chinese market, at Chinese scale, with Chinese industrial urgency behind it. The result happens to be the most capable mobile crane on Earth. But here's where it gets uncomfortable for the established players. What was built for the Gobi works everywhere else too. Wind developers in parts of Europe, South America, and Central Asia face similar terrain challenges. Remote sites, limited access, large turbines. A crane that can navigate provincial highways without escort convoys and operate on unprepared terrain without a week of site prep has obvious value anywhere the ground is genuinely difficult. Germany's Max Spogel Group reportedly ordered multiple units. The reason was practical. European road restrictions make oversized equipment move slow and expensive. A machine that sidesteps most of that friction is worth a great deal to an operator doing dozens of installations per year. Step back and look at what's actually happened here. A company in central China, solving a domestic problem that most Western manufacturers didn't see as their concern, built a machine that redefined what a mobile crane can be. Not incrementally, not a 10% improvement on an existing design, but a step change that placed it in a performance class by itself. The combination of specs that define the ZAT40000H, 4,000 tons of capacity, 210-meter boom, sub-3-meter transport width, 8-hour setup, all-terrain capability. None of the established players had that combination. Each element might exist somewhere in isolation. Together, in a single mobile machine, it didn't exist until Zoomlion built it. And the timing wasn't accidental. Zoomlion wasn't chasing a record. They were solving a specific operational problem that their own domestic market urgently needed answered. How do you install the next generation of onshore wind turbines in the places that actually need them? The answer turned out to be a machine that other markets needed too. That's often how it goes with tools built under genuine operational pressure. The desert didn't care about technical tradition. The desert just needed the work done. The crane is somewhere in northwest China right now. Another turbine site, another convoy, another setup, another 150-ton nacelle being lifted into the sky above the Gobi on a machine that didn't exist 2 years ago. The question the industry is still working out is how quickly the model scales. One crane completing hundreds of installations is impressive. A fleet of them working simultaneously across the entire western Chinese desert zone changes the delivery timeline for a significant piece of China's energy transition, and the effects compound over years. Additional units are already entering service. The modular counterweight system and quick disassembly design weren't choices made for elegance. They were made for throughput. The faster each machine moves from one turbine to the next, the more installations per year per machine. At some point, that math becomes a very different conversation, not just about China's grid, but about how quickly remote site wind can be built anywhere on Earth with difficult terrain and strong wind. The Gobi was the first test. It passed. The next question is how many more of these machines are out there by the time anyone else has caught up? Before I go, I want to hear from you. Does a machine like this change your view of what's possible in remote energy construction? Or is there a bigger obstacle out there that cranes alone can't solve? Drop your answer in the comments. Thanks for watching.